Are you looking for expert tips on residential leasing and how to lease for top value? Well, today our guest is going to talk exactly about that. I'm your host, Giancarlo Carangelo, joined here with my friend and partner, Anthony Lodja.
Hey, Giancarlo. It's going to be a good one.
It's going to be a great one. It's going to be an awesome one. We actually have our first female podcast guest today. Nadine Adouani is a real estate broker with a wide range of experience in the residential leasing sector. And she's going to talk to us a little bit about her background and give us some insightful tips on leasing properties to quality tenants.
Hi, guys. I'm really excited to be here.
We're excited to have
be the first female guest.
Yeah, we're excited to have you, Nadine. We're excited.
Thank you.
Welcome. So for our listeners, give them a little bit of an idea of who you are, your background, and what led you into real estate and what got you into residential leasing.
Yeah, sure. So like many other brokers, I started off in the restaurant industry, just like you.
Just
actually.
Like me, yeah.
And that's really where it all started for me. You have the opportunity to meet so many people when you're working at a restaurant. And that's where I now met, that's where I met my friend. He's a house flipper, and he also had a friend that was a real estate broker. So they decided to start off a leasing agency, and I was their first employee to work with them. So I was able to see the agency go from zero to what it is now. And I'm very lucky to have had that opportunity. Honestly, I would not regret the experience a single bit. And honestly, I just knew that real estate was for me from the get-go whenever I was working in the restaurant, because you found yourself in so many situations where you have to act fast, and I was able to act fast. I was able to do it professionally, and I just knew it from there. I mean, I also always wanted to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I wanted to have my own schedule. I didn't want anyone bossing me around. Yeah.
So
I knew.
Yeah, I'm hearing there's like this connection between real estate and people in the restaurant, the hotel industry as well. We see it all the time. Now, what were certain of those skills that you had that really helped and translated over to real estate?
Customer service.
Yeah.
Customer service is a skill. It's a big skill that every real estate broker should have. You're just able to act in certain situations that other can't, and that's just so important. You're gonna go through so many challenges as a real estate broker, and I think also one of the reasons why I did join real estate is because I genuinely think that a broker should have thick skin for this, and that's something that I have.
Restaurants really help you develop thick skin, you know, and I like that you mentioned that, because I do have a restaurant background too. Mm-hmm. You know, and I found real estate was very similar to restaurants.
Yep.
And I know you mentioned, sorry, I'm going to cut you. I know you mentioned some of your early challenges. So what were some of the early challenges you experienced in real estate, and how did you overcome them?
My God, there were so many challenges. I would say, don't put yourself down. You're gonna do like probably 10 visits and not be able to rent it out, and then the next visit after you'll be able to rent it out. So don't give up. You're gonna be put in so many situations where like you're gonna be brought down. You just keep going, you move your ass, and you do it.
So persistence, hard work, dedication, that customer service oriented mindset. That's really
you're not gonna be able to get it on the first shot. Definitely not. It's rare, but just keep doing it. Yep.
Very cool.
Yeah. So you told us about like how you got started in residential leasing, you know, and at what point in time when you got started did the interest just spark for you? Was it instantly? Did it take you a little bit to understand the business? Or was it something like, I know for me, like when I started, you know, leasing properties and getting involved with real estate, I knew right away it was for me, because it was similar to the restaurant industry. It was fast paced. Essentially, we're solving problems.
Yeah.
You know, customer service. So I knew instantly. But I also met people who said it took them a while to find their footing and to see if it was for them. You know, at what point do you think you realized it was for you?
Good question. Immediately. Honestly, immediately. I know what I want in life, and I knew that it was real estate.
Well,
I felt super comfortable doing it, and I love it. I really love it. I think it's the perfect career for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
so yeah, maybe let's get into a little bit the intricacies of it. So what are some of the biggest mistakes landlords make when leasing out their properties?
Fortunately, there are so many mistakes I can name you right now. I'll try to put it up on a top 3 scale. So I would start off with understanding the laws and regulations. Unfortunately, a lot of landlords do not know them and don't try to acknowledge them, unfortunately. And that just leads to, you have to remember, Quebec is not a landlord-friendly province.
No. No, it's not.
So, régie, la régie de...
Logement, the tribunal.
Sorry, I'm so bilingual. Régie de logement is more on the tenant side. So you've got to be really careful about that. I mean, seriously, to all the landlords, you have so many tools. You can go see any real estate brokers. We're so many out there, and you also have lawyers that are great in real estate law. So just learn your shit.
Yes.
Learn your stuff for sure.
Sorry, excuse me.
This is actually something we speak about in our program, because there are certain provinces, even in Canada, where it's a lot friendlier to landlords, but Quebec is simply not one of them.
Alberta is definitely one of the provinces in Canada, guys, that is landlord friendly. And unfortunately, Quebec and Ontario are the ones who are not landlord friendly, So, and I always say, as we all know, I'm a property manager. I've built a property management portfolio, and I've learned the hard way with tenants, right? And I always say it's better to have a unit empty for 2 months than have the wrong tenant in there for 1 month. And I think that to add to that question that Anthony asked, not to take away from you, but in my experience, a lot of landlords or lessors are eager to fill these properties. So if a tenant comes in and flashes cash, they get excited and they forget to do their due diligence. Due diligence is crucial. Background check and everything, and some people get excited at the sight of money and let the person come in right away just because they're going to give 2-3 months up front. And, now next thing you know, 3 months later, the money stops and you're stuck with a tenant who's not paying, a delinquent tenant. So that's a huge mistake that I've seen and made, in my career, regretfully, so.
You learn, you live and learn.
Yeah.
You're actually bringing to my point. So the biggest second mistake that I'd say landlords make is screening. They don't tend to go through the right procedures to screen their tenants. I'm obviously going to talk more in detail about it a bit later. What was I saying? So they just don't screen them well, and like you said, they see that the unit is getting vacant, so they're just hurrying up. They're rushing. They're trying to fill it up as soon as possible. But you really got to take your time with it and make sure that you're bringing in the right tenant.
Yeah, and I think you said you had another tip or.
Yep. Maintenance.
Maintenance. Often overlooked.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I really don't know why, but it has happened so many times. I think 50% of my visits, I'd walk in an apartment that smelled horrible. They're not airing it out, and then you've got spider webs. I once found a dead cockroach, unfortunately. Yeah, so you really got to make sure that you clean out your apartments before visits. It affects the visit so much. And I mean, it already says so much about a landlord if the apartment isn't clean.
Yeah, it says a lot, and we speak a lot about this, about presenting a property, and good quality tenants will gravitate to good quality properties. You get what you attract. So if you have a dirty, poorly kept property, you're not going to get a quality tenant.
Very well said.
So to those landlords out there, remember, know the laws.
Yeah.
Know what you're able to
definitely
kind of get away with.
And don't
properly screen.
Due diligence.
Don't skip due diligence. Properly screen and maintain your property.
Clean it.
Clean it.
So can you maybe share a story where you've helped a landlord resolve a leasing problem?
Whether it would be if it would stayed vacant for a long time or it was hard to lease. Because I know in my experience, I've had units that were hard to lease.
Okay, this is the one I get the most. The one situation I get the most. So now I knew how to deal with it. A lot of landlords or even property management, they tend to make a mistake and think that a unit is available. There's a whole like mistake in an inventory, and then I end up in a situation where I look kind of unprofessional. I've got to tell the tenant, hey, well, the unit's not available anymore. I'm gonna have to bring you into another unit, and I have to and it's pricier, so I have to kind of upsell them. So this happened a lot, but now I definitely know how to handle it.
Yeah, I worked as a leasing rep for a big condominium complex, and they had, as you might know, larger scaled buildings like this have multiple leasing agents. And I think at the time we were about 2 working in this project. And I have a list with all the available units. I showed the unit, and the person's interested in that unit. And next thing you know, the other leasing agent rented it a day before, but it didn't get processed and updated on my end. So now I got to try to upsell. Yeah, all the time. It happens all the time. And it happens more often than not. And now I got to try to upsell or flip them on another unit. And it's annoying.
It's annoying, but I think, again, you learned so much from it. Like, it's great that you're able to handle a situation like this.
Yeah, and you have to pivot, right? You need to adjust and adapt. So tell us, in your experience, when it comes to finding reliable tenants and screening them, what's the most important factors?
Okay, so I've done so many screenings, so I have a specific procedure. I'm going to put you guys through the steps of it. I start off with Trusty. Trusty is a very great platform. You can honestly use any platform you'd like. I'd suggest one that's a soft background credit check, because a lot of tenants tend to back away whenever it's a hard check. Exactly. They don't want it to affect their credit score, right? So Trusty is great. From there, I'm able to see their credit score. Usually a credit score that's under 650 is like,
yeah,
what are you doing?
Yeah, that's where I set the line too, and it's 650 and up.
Yeah, 650, and then the more it goes up, the better. I know some buildings are very strict with that. They'll actually only accept like 700 plus. So, anyways, so yeah, from there I'm able to see their credit check. I'm also able to see if they had any debts, if they had any bankruptcies. And Trusty is great because you can also see criminal records.
You need to, which is another thing I think that lessors and landlords often overlook, don't think about. When I've worked with clients in the past and I told them that, criminal records were part of my verification, they were a little bit surprised. But I said, but this, the guy could have good credit, but something happened 5 years ago. You want to know that, right? And to touch a little bit upon the credit score, like I mentioned, and you mentioned it too, a specific number, and for me, it's 650 and up. There have been cases where I've made exceptions, like, for example, 620, 600, but exception being the person's a new arrival in Canada. Yes. Or wherever, you're renting, and they're just starting to build their credit. They got here a year ago. They don't have much under their name. And I would make an exception about that. But now if I have a Canadian citizen who's been here for the last 20 years and he has a credit score of 600, I want to know why.
There's a little issue.
There's an issue,
There's an issue there,
Yeah, there's an issue.
I've made exceptions also for tenants that are exceptionally transparent, right? They show me their bank account statement, which is over the top. They have their employment letter. They have a letter of recommendation. Call whoever you want.
Yeah.
An open book. For me, I find that's a super positive point.
Yeah.
That's someone that I feel I could trust.
Yeah, 100%. And that's actually, now that you mentioned bank statements, that's actually one of the things that I demand to have whenever I'm screening a tenant. So like I was saying, criminal records, and also régie de logement. You need to see if they have any cases there. Maybe they weren't paying their rent on time. There's an issue. So yeah, you definitely have to check that out. And then that's when I ask, so your 3 latest bank statements, or your 3 latest pay stubs. I prefer bank statements because it has happened where pay stubs were frauded. When I say frauded, it was a frauder that made up fake pay stubs. And I catched up to that, but some landlords maybe won't be able to catch up to that. So you've got to be really careful.
Well, that's, we speak about due diligence and beginning landlords might often think that a pay stub is sufficient, right? But it's super easy to make a PDF document that looks like a pay stub nowadays. And that's where calling the employer goes a long way. Calling the landlord is a huge one. I know owners, property managers that often skip that part of the process. They don't call the landlord. But here's the thing. I like to do, property checks. So if someone's applying to my apartment and they say Nadine is their owner and they give their address, I'm going to right away look up on the land registry to see who the owner of this property is. And if it says any other name other than Nadine, I want to know who the hell is on the application. That's a red flag. People often don't call the employers. They often don't call the landlords. And employment letters, too, can easily be faked. Yep. So it's part of that due diligence process. And you cannot skip on due diligence when you're leasing a unit.
I've literally been in a situation where I called the landlord and it was just someone faking it and acting like a landlord, and I was just like laughing the whole time.
Yeah. And for all our listeners out there across Canada, we had mentioned registre de logement, but verify the tenant board to see if there's any files against the tenants, and look up the address, because I've had cases, for example, husband and wife wanting to move into my unit where the wife is going to put the application and the lease under her name because the husband has the application and lease under his name at the other apartment where they stop paying the rent.
Yeah.
So you do a reverse search on the property address and you'll know right away if there was any delinquency there, and if she's saying she's living at this address for this specific date and there's a file opened, well, that they're trying to pull a fast one.
Unfortunately, I've met some very, very kind people, and I found out after their screening that they had a criminal record. Yeah. Obviously, you can make some exceptions, I'll give you an example. This guy, his ex framed him for aggression or whatever it is, and he's the sweetest thing. So you're unfortunately in situations like that where you have to make exceptions, and it was in 2021 that it happened. So, but whenever it comes to trafic de stupéfiants, drug
trafficking, substances.
Yes, there you go.
Anything really bad. Yeah,
you don't want that. You don't want that. No.
Funny story. I was actually telling that's in this before our podcast episode, how I started incorporating criminal background checks because I had a guy come in to rent one of my units, and he came in, and he put $5,000 in $100 bills on the table, wanted to pay the first 5 months up front, and I said, hang on a second, you look suspicious. I did a background check on him, and sure enough, not even 2 years prior, he got arrested for attempted murder. And I read the whole court report, and he stabbed somebody 7 times. And I said, you can keep your $5,000, buddy. We don't need that. We don't need that. And, I also want to just add that you need to speak to the person. You need to meet the person, get the feel, because I've had tenants who look great on paper that were horrible tenants. And I've had tenants who don't look that attractive on paper that were actually some of my best tenants.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So meeting the people is definitely key.
Yep.
So moving on to the next question, Nadine, the Montreal rental market is unique. What challenges and opportunities do you see for, let's say, tenants in this?
Mm-hmm. For tenants, I find that honestly landlords, they have more challenges, but I'd say for tenants, definitely finding a reasonable priced apartment. It's very hard. It's very hard these days. I honestly suffered from that. I'm even on the look right now, trying to find a good priced apartment. We can't control it. We can't control the price. That's why landlords have to be careful whether they're overpricing or underpricing. And then, there's our economy. So
yeah.
And what trend are you seeing in this market? We'll say for the foreseeable future, next year, is it going to continue to go up? Because more and more, like you said, it's becoming so unaffordable.
It goes up every year. And then you have to remember, Régie de Logement allows landlords to increase the rent by 4 or 5% every year. So the more you live in an apartment, the more the rent is going to get increased. And you just have to live with it. That's how it is, unfortunately. Yeah. Life.
So now we're going to move on to a section where we call rapid fire, and we're going to ask you some questions. I'll start off.
Shoot.
So if you were a tenant looking to lease a unit, would you rather lease a condo or a townhouse? And why?
Condo, but that's just like a personal preference. Condo, yeah.
Case by case.
If I were to get a townhouse, I'd just buy.
Yeah. Case by case. I get that.
So what would you recommend to someone who is looking to lease their apartment and you have two options for them? One is a long-term lease with a lower price per month or a short-term lease with a higher price per month?
Good question. I think the short-term lease, obviously cash flow is great. It depends when you say long-term lease, are you thinking of like 1 year, 2 years?
2-3 year lease, we'll say.
As opposed to 1 year.
As opposed to 1 year or even a 6-month lease.
Short-term, yep. Short-term.
Awesome.
So would you screen tenants yourself, or you like using a third-party service? Like if you were to be, we'll say, a landlord, what would you recommend to someone? Like, would you tell them to look at it themselves or to hire someone to do it?
Hire someone, property management.
Yeah.
Here.
and there's also for the landlords out there, there's a ton of great background check services that you could, if you're looking to do it yourself, again, due diligence is important, guys. Using these platforms, there's a ton of them out there for sure. So
there are, but I just think that investing in property management it's a great option because if you're not experienced with screening and everything, you're just gonna go through so many headaches, and maybe they can cost you. So you've got to be careful and just hire a professional. That's it.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I mean, Nadine, it was really great having you as the first female guest on the Property Venture Podcast. For our listeners listening, how could they reach you? How could they get in touch with you?
Good question. They're probably you guys are gonna put in my phone number, right?
Phone number, Instagram. Tell us your Instagram handle. So
my Instagram, Nadine.Adouani. Jesus Christ, I don't even know my Instagram. I think it's Nadine Adouani .realty. Yeah, there you go. But I'm great through phone number, through email. Don't be shy, I'm here.
And worst case scenario, reach out to us and we'll definitely connect you with Nadine.
Thank you. Thank you.
For all you guys out there, please like, follow, share, subscribe.
Wherever you're listening, YouTube, Apple Podcast, Instagram,
Spotify.
And it was great having you. Thank you, Nadine.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks.